about it, from a small child, as we go through life, we feel different feelings at different stages of our lives. So a 2-year-old has perhaps never felt what it physically feels like to feel angry.
Mm-hmm.
So they might feel angry because they can't have something. But then, when we're angry, I don't know how you feel, but my stomach churns, my shoulders go up, my breath gets shallow, my throat constricts. Can you imagine if you're 2 and all these strange sensations that you've never had before are happening to you? That's really scary. So we once even worked for British Airways, where they had a pay-to-plane for Christmas competition, and they invited all the winners to come back, and they needed kind of childcare on the plane. So some of our staff went with them on the plane.
Nice. So how did you tell us the background of this? How did you get into this? Now, this is this is a very unusual type of business.
It is.
And I believe this business is because this is what you wanted to do.
It is.
But it must have some kind of connection from your background that's led you to become or open this business. And when you refer to we, tell us who's in the business with you.
My husband Steve.
Okay.
And now my daughter Rhea.
Okay.
However, when we started, my daughter Rhea was, I think she was 2.5, 2, and my son was 6 weeks old. So the reason we started, I used to be an actress, and I was in a long-running West End show called Mr. Sinless with my first business partner. And as it was coming towards the end of the run, we were thinking, oh gosh, we're going to be out of work again. I just wish we had some regular money coming in, And why don't we open a business? So we thought of all kinds of things, That was back in the day of filofaxes, don't you remember then? And we thought about photocopying filofaxes, and we thought about opening, which is actually, thinking right now, was a good idea. We thought about opening a kind of place, which there are loads of them now, which are a bit like you, that does gym and fitness and aerobics, where could be a bit holistic, and we didn't do that. And then we were talking about the fact that as a young mum, an actress, I couldn't afford full-time childcare, but I had nowhere where I could leave my child just for a few hours to go to an audition. So I was having to take her with me to auditions and get friends to meet me there and sort of look after her while I ran in and did my audition.
Quite stressful.
So it was really stressful. And
so then we audition with this kind of stress, so you're not really being the best version of yourself there.
Exactly. So
there was a need there.
There was a need
that
there.
You recognised.
Absolutely. So that's when we decided that we'd open a shopper's creche. So the first business was called Kinderpark, and we opened a shopper's creche in Wood Green Shopping Centre.
Okay.
And I literally just phoned them up and said, oh, we run this business, and totally rubbish.
Yeah, you hadn't got the business.
No,
you just literally see if you could get something.
Okay. Have you ever thought about having a shopper's creche? Yes, they said. Would you like to come and meet us? And I was like, oh gosh, what am I going to do? I don't know anything about this. Anyway, we learned very fast. We opened the creche in that building. Unfortunately, it was at the beginning of the recession in 89, 90.
Yeah.
And so we lasted about, I'm trying to think now, I think it was about 18 months.
Okay.
And then sadly had to close. However, in the middle of all that, we had lots of support from active communities. Sue Cook came and opened it for us, Victoria Wood used to trot in and see us, and the people who shot Roger Rabbit in Star Wars came and did all the paintings for us on the wall. Nick Fraser. He said to me, oh, could you come and run a creche in a field in a tent? And I went, oh, I don't know. I suppose I could. So we did, and he was running a big corporate party. Okay. He worked for a company called Imagination, so they had this big corporate client party. And while we were doing that, the head of Vauxhall was there, and he said, could you come and do this for a ride and drive event? They don't have them anymore, but in those days they used to invite lots of fleet directors to come and look at the cars, and they'd put on a weekend for them. So that's how Nipperbout was.
That lead was from the party there.
That was
your
from the
friend
party.
invited you.
Yeah.
Okay. And then this is where it
and
starts.
that's how Nipperbout began, because we started nipping about the country with first Vauxhall, then Ford, then Peugeot, then so they all sort of saw us there and thought, oh, this is a good idea.
Yeah.
And then I sort of suddenly thought, gosh, this is possibly a business.
Yeah.
Maybe I should do some marketing. So then I started contacting exhibition centres and then conferences, and to be honest, I didn't do much marketing at all. It was all referrals.
Which is the best way, it's
and
word of
grew,
mouth.
and grew,
Yeah.
and grew, yeah.
Amazing. Did you have to then, obviously you were an actress, did you have to qualify to start this business, do you think?
No, not straight away.
Okay.
I always had to, obviously the rules are that you have to have a certain amount of qualified staff, depending on the ages of the children.
Okay.
And I happened to live in the borough of Haringey before Ofsted, this is in social services, and they actually had the highest standards in the UK, and I know that because I had to register with social services. In those days, if you were in a particular building for more than 6 days, then you had to register with the local borough council. And the first person that registered me later became one of the top Ofsted inspectors, Karen Delancey, I think her name was, and Karen Delancey. And she was a young sort of social service inspector, and she registered me close to here in Millbrook Proving Ground, and then I ended up in Milton Keynes, which is great. And she followed me around for years, once social services merged and became Ofsted, and we registered in all these different places. The thing about Haringey was the standards were so high that we whizzed through everywhere else.
Wow.
And so then when Ofsted came, we started getting outstandings, and we had, for years, we had outstanding almost every year. Ofsted now they're not inspecting as frequently as they used to, so the last one was 2017, which was also outstanding. And the rules have now changed, partly because I think they got sick of Ofsted registering us everywhere, because in those days, if you changed room in a building, you had to have an additional visit inspection. So we'd go somewhere like the NEC one week, be inspected, and come back the following week into a room next door, and we'd have to be inspected again. So we had 37 inspections from Ofsted in 1 year. Wow, yeah.
You did well in all of them?
Yes, all of them.
Well done.
But that's
What a
why
pressure.
they then changed the law. So in 2004, and the law changed in 2006, we started talking to the DFES, as it was then, and they decided to up the number of days you could do in a building to 14. However, Scotland, Wales and Ireland, it's still 6 days.
Oh, I see.
So yeah, I mean, I won't bore you with all the legislation, but it is quite, as you can imagine, it's quite fast.
So your need for, or your desire for opening this business, where does it come from, and why did you want to look after children?
When I had my own daughter, I think I suddenly realised the enormity of parenting and looking after children.
Your daughter was your firstborn?
Yes. And I knew I didn't want to do it the way my mum brought me up.
I really want to home into that.
And as I've spoken to you before, I have a very particular childhood philosophy which came about when my daughter was about 6 weeks old. I was given a book by an actor actually, who was working with me in a West End show. I was lucky enough to be able to take my daughter with me every day, take the baby to work, so that was amazing. For 6 months he came. And he gave me this book called The Continuum Concept by Jean Heathrow. And she used to live with a tribe of the Yukwana tribe. I can't remember where it was, maybe Brazil somewhere. And she discovered that this tribe were some of the most grounded, confident people that she'd ever met. And she decided that it was because of the way they treated their children and the way they brought their children up. And one of the things that they did was they constantly carried their children. So this is actually what is now called attachment theory. But back then it was,
there was no fancy words.
No.
Yeah.
But what she noticed was that children that were held all the time, and they kind of carry their children constantly from birth, and only put them down in the 4th month, where they have a sort of ceremony to put them on the ground.
Oh,
and
wow. And you mean continuous holding?
Continuous holding.
The attachment.
Yeah. And
mother and father both?
Yes, anyone in the group could hold, just as long as the baby has
it's attached to a body.
Absolutely. And so this really resonated with me. And the other thing that she went on to talk about was about how praise can be very damaging for a child.
That's a really interesting point we were just discussing there. And this is again part of this
This
particular
book, the
book.
continuing concept. There are now people like Alfie Cohen who's written similar stuff, and now if you look at neuroscience, there's a great book called Early Years, or Neuroscience in Early Years, by Mene Jonkbayar, and that's spelled Conkbayir. There's another woman called Jane Evans who's fantastic at talking about anxiety and how the way we treat children in the early years is so important to their well-being as they grow up. But what I loved about Jean Liedloff is it was all about human observation. There's another book called Sapiens, which kind of says similar things about how we need to be in small communities to thrive, and how the touch of other people and connection with other people is so important for our mental health and well-being. But what I loved, there were some things about Jean Liedloff's book which people go, oh my goodness, she believes that, well, basically she was observing the Indians allowing children to use knives and
very early on.
Yes, and they would let their children roll around on the floor very near cliffs with the total trust that they weren't going to roll off the edge. And I guess if you're, in the Yokana tribe in a very soft jungle environment where the skin contact with the earth, the child could probably feel when the earth was undulating and pull themselves back. However, in a concrete world that we live in, fully clothed, that's not quite the same. And I think, what you do with your own children, you can't do with other people. So no, I don't let children play with knives.
No, okay, absolutely.
Get close to cliffs. But
your ethos was, so you, basis of how you started to parent came from this particular book.
Yes.
So this actress who gave you, or actor who gave you the book, had they tried these methodologies?
No,
or
not
what?
at all.
So
he didn't actually have any children at the time, although he did go on to have children. And he and then actually by that time I was a continuing concept trainer, and I then also joined an organisation called Parent Network, who had similar philosophy. I think the hardest thing is this non-praise, not praising your children.
And that's the biggest thing
that's the biggest thing that I picked up.
And were you a child who was praised?
Yes,
not praised?
constantly. My mum lost her husband, my father, when I was 2 days old in a car crash. She was in the RAF, so she had no counselling, no grieving. It was just like, get out of your house in 3 weeks, because it's an RAF house and we needed. And so for her, it was really important that I was a good child, because she needed to be seen to be a good parent, because she was a single mum, and she stayed single all the way through. For various reasons, she took me off to East Africa. I was brought up in East Africa and then South America. But the big thing all the time was you must be good, and if you're not good, you're going to really let me down. So it was a bit of, my mum's been an amazing parent, don't get me wrong. This bit was the bit that I then, in my sort of 30s, once I'd had my child, went on to have a lot of counselling about, and so that I really understood and learned what damage consistent praise can do.
What kind of damage did you suffer then, if I was to ask you that question?
Well, I think because I was constantly told how good and wonderful I was, when I got to school and I wasn't having that, I felt like I was really, a bad person. I had no self-esteem. I was thinking, oh my gosh, what do I need to do to get this praise? So constantly trying to please people, constantly trying to do the right thing in order to be good. And I guess I think I still probably hold on to that a little bit.
So DNA is
it's absolutely strong. And what's really interesting is there's another fantastic podcast called Trauma Informed. So if your listeners are interested in this, it's a woman called Lisa Cherry, and she, I heard someone speak on her podcast who said exactly what you said. It's in your DNA, and even she, who's hugely trauma informed, you cannot help passing it on to your children. Because no matter what you do, no matter what you're saying, it's about role modeling. And there's a little bit of you that unconsciously does out. The word good I hate when applied to a person, so I've avoided calling my children good children ever. And the easiest way to do that is to talk about the deed, not the doer. So if you separate what's actually happened from the deed, so that's the first step for people to get their heads around, is separate the deed from the doer. And if you're going to praise, then talk about what the child has done. The problem is that whenever we praise, we've actually got our own hidden agenda, because it's about controlling. It's about controlling. We want our child to keep tidy in their room.
But we don't want to admit to that.
Exactly. And so no matter, and we think, oh, we need to praise our child to raise their self-esteem. That's not how you raise self-esteem. The way you raise self-esteem is talking about feelings and understanding how a child feels when they've done something. And my own son last night was talking about this project that he's just recently done. And I was just saying, gosh, you sound really pleased about that, tell me more. And he was saying, oh, I'm so excited, Mum, because it's so cool, because, I've done this, I've done that. And so I didn't have to say anything, because he was validating himself and talking to me, and all I'm saying is, tell me how you're feeling. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's much more important praise.
Give me an example of when they were little, and how did you use that ethos?
Corner. And I say, oh, great, so that you must have enjoyed doing that then. So again, back to the feelings. What was it about the book corner that you enjoyed doing? And, with my daughter, it's like she likes putting things neatly in rows, she's quite an organised person. And my son, it might be, because we were tripping over them, logic, pick them up.
Right.
So they don't need praise for that. It's about the logical thing of it.
So you would ask if the teacher's then saying to you, your child's been really great today, you just said, oh wow, what have they done?
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
you said, oh, so you must have enjoyed doing that then.
I mean, at Nipperbout, people are always saying, has it been good? And what they actually
must
mean
say that all the time. Yeah.
And it's really interesting, because what they mean by that is, quite often, has he cried? So has he felt upset about me leaving him here? Because it's the guilt. So we say,
it goes back to that guilt, doesn't it?
And have they ruined anything or broken anything or behaved, what they consider to have been maybe badly? And we'll say, we've really enjoyed having your child. He or she seems to have enjoyed being with us. And that's the key thing.
It's the words, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about the feeling. It's going back to the feelings. And always, what I say to my staff is, because behind all behaviours, basically there's a feeling, or there's a need that needs to be met. And if that need isn't met, then our behaviours will change. So it's about finding out what that need is. And 90% of the time at Nipperbout, it's anxiety.
Yep.
Because if you think about our setting, they don't know us, they don't know other people, they're not even staying in their own homes at night. Their parents are stressed, because the parents want to go to the conference, they might be giving a speech, they might be late, they haven't got everything with them, they might have forgotten something, or they've just got off a train, so a child might have been travelling for an hour.
Yeah.
So stress and anxiety levels are high, and also our staff stress and anxiety levels are high. So the first thing we need to do is bring that down. And we start with the staff, which I think is similar stuff to you. We try playing a thing called the gratitude game. So we try and think about all the things that we're grateful for that day. And it can't be like world peace and my family. It's got to be things like the plant on the windowsill. I'm really grateful for that, because it's given me a colour and reminded me about nature. It might be your eyelashes, because you can flirt with them and close them and they look pretty and attractive. So it is about
into a present, almost a changing state.
Exactly. And that quite often, as you can imagine, starts with some laughter. And laughter is a great way of releasing anxiety, because the brain thinks when we're laughing that we're in a safe, secure place, which is why a sign and symptom of anxiety is children who smile a lot and whose eyes are very starey, because when we're anxious, the brain sends adrenaline into your eyes, so you get all those starey eyes, because basically if the bear's chasing you, then you need to be able to see the bear. And also, if you smile at your predator, particularly if it's another human being, they might think that you're okay and that you're not going to, it's a signal to say I'm okay. So when you actually laugh, that's a release of that tension, and it releases some anxiety. So the first thing that we have to do is get the staff release their anxiety, so that they're in a state to be able to welcome the children into our settings in a warm, relaxed state.
So this is how the day starts in this way, or the actual session starts in this way.
And the things that we do, the things that we teach our staff, the two key things that might help your listeners with little children, is very basic things. Try and avoid the word no, don't, stop, because if you're no, don't stop, you get off, is your whole day. So we try and tell children what they can do instead of what they can't do, and that's just a quick twist of the brain. So don't run becomes walk. Don't shout becomes use quiet voice. So it still means the same thing.
But you're using the positive language rather than actually telling the mind
Yes.
the opposite.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So positive phrasing, and then being very clear.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of saying, "Oh, look out, you're going to spill that drink," we would say, "Hold the cup with 2 hands, lift the jug, pour it slowly, bring the cup closer to the jug, pour the water slowly. Oh, look, it's all gone in the jug.
I love that.
Job done."
I'm listening to this thinking, oh my God, if more people could speak like this, we will have children that are less anxious because we're making them anxious.
Absolutely.
Because we are anxious and we were brought up very much good behaviour, bad behaviour,
Yeah.
slap,
Yeah.
you know, obviously lots of heaps of things, especially different cultures mixing together, and how the way people have been brought up is so mind blowing stuff that you're actually saying. But this really makes sense because it's just the same. You're giving the same message, but it's giving it in a positive way.
Yeah.
So the child starts to think positive. And imagine
Absolutely.
them now growing up into the adulthood, which is now your daughter. So you've actually brought her up and your son in that way.
Yes.
And how do you see it? Do you see a difference between
Oh, absolutely.
your daughter
I
and
think
like your friend's daughter maybe, or
I think the difference I saw greatly when they were in their teens. So they were all very, I think, emotionally much more mature. But that comes with a kind of proviso, if you like, because currently in the EYFS we're all talking about self-regulation, which is about understanding your feelings and being able to control those. And you can't do that unless you've had a lot of people helping you to what they call co-regulate. But
okay.
with my children, I talked about feelings constantly. And it was really interesting. I remember my eldest son once turned around to me and saying, "I don't have any feelings," because he was so sick of me saying, you know, how do you feel, how do you feel? And so again, it's not about saying, how do you feel? That was my mistake. It's more about looking at the task and thinking, oh gosh, you know, how do you feel about that? Or not even say, how do you feel? I can't think of a way of doing it now. But as I said before, commenting on it like, oh, you know, your bed looks, you've tidied up those books, you know, what made you do that? Well, they were on the floor. Okay, so how do you feel now that you've done it? So you try and bring it back to the feeling always.
So if you go upstairs to your son's room, he's 10 years old, he's gone to school, and he knows that he needs to do certain chores because that triggers his pocket money, which I know this is not exactly. How would you say to him to tidy his room in a positive way?
Well, that's about his feeling. How do you feel about it? And also
the way the room looks. So you'll just say.
But also again, but again, it's if he feels about his room and is quite happy about it like that, then actually that's not my problem, is it?
It's his room.
It's his room, and as long if I don't like it, then I can shut the door. So it's about always thinking, whose problem is this?
And for that you really need to just think, stop and think. You're about to say something. Is it for you? Or is
One
it
of the
really
things
for
that
your
a lot of parents do is that, you know, quite often I've heard when you're sitting in a cafe or whatever and the child is really distressed and crying, I've heard people going, "Oh, look, you're making you disturbing everybody." And I kind of think,
oh,
do you know what? That's blame and humiliation. They're already feeling bad enough. But the thing is, who cares? You're never going to see the other people that are sitting in this room again. But the person that you love the most is sitting there in a heightened sense of distress and anxiety. So deal with that and ignore everyone else. And that's hard.
Very
because I've been there.
Yeah, me too.
And when you've got a screaming child. But do you know what? How quickly, if you just acknowledge the feeling you're sounding really upset inside right now, have a big cry, and you give them permission to have a big cry. Quite often, it might get a little bit louder for a bit, but it will quite soon stop, because you're not saying you're a bad person because you're making all this noise. You're saying it's okay, have a cry, I'm here, have a sit, and after a little while, they'll stop. Far more than if you're saying, be quiet, shh, look, all these people are looking at you. This
is when you start caring what other people think, and then it's installed in you that
exactly, and
teachers say that, you know, openly, as long as your child's behaving in school. And I'm thinking, but at home is really himself.
What does behaving mean?
Yeah, exactly.
We behave all the time, and our behaviour changes because of the way we feel. It's got nothing to do with anything else. It's all about how we feel. You know, and some of us, I can be horrible sometimes when I'm feeling upset and stressed. I'm sure you can. We all can, and we all lose it. And I think if we do lose it, the biggest thing is to apologise to our children.
Yes, 100%.
And to say, do you know what? I handled that badly. I made a mistake. I'm really sorry. But equally, when they make mistakes, it's about acknowledging that, because a child's job is to make mistakes, and our job is about trying to help them. You know, that's so important. And the other thing is, people quite often say, "Oh, you know, I think my baby's crying because he always does it just so he knows. He doesn't know. He's a baby. His brain hasn't developed." a 2-year-old, if you tell a 2-year-old, you're going to be punished if you do this, it's a waste of time. This bit of the brain, front cortex, hasn't developed and doesn't develop until, for a man, I think 26.
25, 26, isn't it, adolescent?
So it's ridiculous to say that a punishment for a 2-year-old is going to work. It's not. And I don't believe anybody performs better by punishment. And in fact, and the same with praise, if you look at management and corporations, they're buying into this too. So it's not about monetary remuneration, it's about getting people to feel they're part of a team. And in all society, this book Sapiens explains it really well, is people want to do things for other people. We feel good about ourselves if we're helping other people. And so rather than force someone to do that by saying, oh, you're such a good person if you do that, it's like saying, oh, you're so good because you go to church every week. Well, it's not about going to church every week. It's about making sure that what your values and what you do is beneficial and helps the team. Yeah. And so if children can see that they've helped, I think back to my 2-year-old, I used to give him a squirting thing when I was cleaning, water in a squirting bottle in a cloth. And he used to follow me around and clean the walls and clean everything. It didn't matter because it was all water. Clean it all up. And if I was cooking, he'd get all of his pans out, not pretend pans, real pans, has to be real. Get them out and start playing with them as well. And so he used to feel he was part of society and contributing. And I remember once when he was 2, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, this stuff really does work. Because I had my 2 oldest children 10 years before my youngest one. And so when I had the young one, I was thinking, oh, am I going to remember all this stuff?
Yeah, and so you've been practicing this exact, haven't you, with your other kids?
Exactly.
So with your younger one then, was it quite natural? You'd already started to...
I'd learned, exactly. Yeah. So with my little one, I did exactly the same thing all the time. I remember once he had most of the time, because he was constantly held by all of us, and he slept in our bed and, had the whole thing. And when he was about 15 months, 16 months, because that's when you first start telling them they can't do things because there's things that they want to do that they're curious that might be dangerous or whatever. Although I would always try to give an alternative. Yeah. And he was doing something, I can't remember what it was, and he got really frustrated about it. He started really crying with anger. And I looked at him, and a little bit of it, the trigger starts going, you think, oh, what's this about? And I suddenly looked at him, and I just bent down, and I held out my arms. And all I did was hold my arms out, and he just went, oh, and ran into my arms, and we just held and had a big cuddle. And after that, he took a breath, and off he went. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this stuff so works.
Wow.
And that goes right back to the Gene Needle stuff. So way before all these other people started writing their books and talking about attachment theory and,
you talked about giving children praise.
Yes, or not giving
them praise. How did you manage that with your own kids in terms of their homework, or if they did something?
Or it's about how do you feel about it? Okay. Are you happy with the homework at the moment? Is there anything that you think you could do to make it better? Do you want to make it better? I actually educated Rhea at home, so I took her out at school and we did homeschooling for 2 years.
Why did you decide that?
Because of where we lived in Haringey, we went to a great school, infant school, and then because of where we lived, catchment area, we weren't allowed to go to the primary school. Okay. And the nearest primary school to me was 40% turnover of children, and I just thought I could do a better job. Okay. In actual fact, I then later did flexi schooling. And I did send her to that school. Flexi schooling is where you can, if you get a head teacher who's keen to do it, you can send your child to school for the things that you're not that great at. Okay. And because this school had a 40% turnover, it made no difference to them because those children were leaving and coming and going all the time. And I have
they were flexi anyway.
They were flexi anyway, and they were amazing. And I actually look back at that, and I think Rhea's life was enriched by that. She didn't like it as much as being constantly at home or constantly at school. But she really learned a lot from that school, just in terms of people, communities, other cultures, languages. There was something like 30 languages spoken in the playground.
Wow.
So so it's all about the feeling. It's always going back to how they feel about what they've done, not about how I feel about what they've done. And be very careful, because with praise, it's very often because we want them to carry on doing something. Now, and that's controlling. Now, that's why if you want someone to carry on doing something, then it's much better to explain it rather than just say, oh, you're good, or oh, you're clever, or oh, you're marvellous. And we think about all those labels because, oh, you're, quite often I hear girls being called so reliable and, so conscientious. And who wants to be reliable and conscientious all the time?
Yeah.
Get lost. Let me be something different.
Have you heard of Carol Dweck's?
No.
About the growth mindset?
Oh, I've heard of Nipperbout.
You have. What's your view on that?
I think, I think it works really well. I don't know a lot about it, I'll be honest, but I think, with anything that encourages self-esteem, encourages you to think about what you've done, encourages you to, believe in yourself, is really important.
It will actually encourage growth mindset because they are deciding
what they're
going to do. Very
exactly.
So very much self-regulating because they're thinking about every time you question, how do you feel?
Exactly.
It's making you think, well, actually, I don't feel like doing this.
Exactly.
Okay then.
The other thing about feelings and self-regulation is it has to be, it can only come about when you've seen other people do it, which is why early years professionals and my staff need to think about their triggers.
Yes.
And need to, we were talking about your son's child before we started, the teacher before we started this, and it's so important to keep your own emotions out of children's emotions because you're giving the wrong messages. So if you can't self-regulate yourself, then how in the world are you ever going to model self-regulation for your children? I was looking with the whole Brexit thing, if you look at Parliament and the amount of non-self-regulation that was going on there, the way some of the politicians were behaving was ridiculous. And yet they're expecting 4-year-olds in the new early years curriculum, they're expecting 4-year-olds to be able to self-regulate. That's nonsense. It's really hard. You can't do it without lots and lots of instances of co-regulation and of help. But if you're told you're a bad person because you're having a strong feeling, also if you think about it, from a small child, as we go through life, we feel different feelings at different stages of our lives. So a 2-year-old has perhaps never felt what it physically feels like to feel angry. So they might feel angry because they can't have something, but then, when we're angry, I don't know how you feel, but my stomach churns, my shoulders go up, my breath gets shallow, my throat constricts. Can you imagine if you're 2 and all these strange sensations that you've never had before are happening to you? That's really scary. So not only are you feeling angry because you can't have what you want, suddenly you can't breathe properly, your throat's tightened, you're feeling sick, and then the person you love best in the world is telling you off and having a go at you.
Yeah, because you're having a tantrum.
Exactly.
Stop having this tantrum.
What you're actually having is a panic attack because you're panicked about the state of your body. And as we go through life, we have more feelings. The first grief, the first time we have a really close friend, and then maybe that close friend hurts us for some reason. These are all things that happen to us in life. And as we go through life, these are more feelings that we never felt. And the first time we feel those feelings, it's really, really intense. So with grief, the first time you feel grief, it's horrendous. Then the next time, perhaps when a pet dies or whatever, you might really feel that for the rest of your life. But then conversely, when your granddad dies or something, it's not quite so intense because your body thinks, oh yes, this is that feeling, but it will pass. But to start with, when you're in it, you don't know if it's ever going to pass. And that's another thing that I try and teach my staff and people that I talk with, is to try and think about, where do I feel that in my stomach? My eldest son came up with a wonderful word called ex-frighted when he was little. Because if you think about in your body where excitement is, so when you're really excited about something, again, your breath goes, your stomach churning maybe,
all connected, isn't it?
Mouth goes, all of that. And when you're frightened, the same thing happens. So it's like they say, one person who jumps out of an aeroplane loves it, and another person is absolutely petrified. But it's again a mindset, and if you quickly switch that switch to think, actually I'm excited, not frightened, that's one way. One way of changing it. And so he used to come up with this word, and he used to say, I'm ex-frighted, Mummy. I'm ex-frighted.
So, excitement.
So he's not quite sure which.
And
He's a bit scared and a little bit.
I like that. It's a fantastic word, actually. It really describes his feelings, isn't it, right there?
And feelings are so important.
And how do you, now obviously they've grown up, the kid's 17, your son, how do you, has he made his own decisions about what he wants to do, and how long have you been doing this for now? He's gone through GCSEs, I take it, and
My youngest one, you mean?
Yes, yes.
No, my youngest one is phenomenal, actually. I mean, again, because I had two much older ones, my youngest, you won't mind me talking about him, he is quite severely dyslexic, so he didn't do very well at school. So in the end, we decided, before he did his GCSEs, in fact, he was hating school so much and getting nothing from it. I decided again to take him out. Sent him to do a college course, which was IT, which he did really, really well at. And so he got his GCSE Maths and English into his BTEC, and then he went on and he did another BTEC level 3. However, when he was 16, he decided to start his own business and set up his own company. And we would get things like my dyslexic son said to me, there's a reporter coming on Sunday to take my picture. And I'd say, why? He said, oh, well, because I've written to the Daily, whatever it was, Mail or Telegraph, and they're coming to take my picture. So he had 3 letters which he'd written to Amber Rudd, because he's very into security and privacy, and he'd been complaining about some new law. It's way over my head. This.
right, okay.
And so then he said, oh, Mum, I need to go to London today. And I said, why are you doing that? And he said, oh, well, because I'm pitching for an investment company. And I went, oh, okay, all right.
This is your son?
This is my son who was 16, yeah.
Wow.
I know. And so he started this business, and again, probably can't talk too much about it,
Yeah,
but
of course,
it's about a product that he's making, which is very exciting. He's about to launch. He's got a beta product, which is any minute now going to launch. And he's been working on it. So after having got his level 3 in IT, he then, which he did, he got an outstanding, or whatever the equivalent is, excelled at it. And then he has been just working on his business ever since. He's now just 19, so he should be in his first year at uni. And what he's doing is purely working on his business.
And it's all from himself. There is the environment has been very encouraging.
Yes, absolutely.
You've cultivated a very open mind. Do whatever you feel right and what you like to do.
I think it's very much about
How
what they want to do.
does his anxiety compare to other children of their age?
He's hardly got any anxiety.
Okay.
He's also terribly emotionally mature, so he made his own decision when he was about 14, and he realised the impact that social media was having on his friends. No Facebook, no Twitter, nothing. The only thing he uses is something called Signal to message his friends.
Oh.
That's a very secure way of communicating,
I've never
apparently.
heard of that.
So all his friends, so he's a kind of leader, I guess, and any friends who want to talk to him have to go onto that Signal because he won't use anything else. So he's just not in a kind of, it's just like, what I love about him is he's not saying, oh yeah, you've all got to do this. It's just like, oh no, this is what I'm on. This is how you communicate with me if you want to. If you don't, that's fine. Just this is what I'm doing. So he's a very balanced human being, which is great.
And thriving on his own.
Absolutely. The proviso that I was going to say earlier about emotions is what my daughter says, and although that might be back to what I said about your DNA and you can't stop it, my daughter says she very much used to feel as a teenager responsible for other people's feelings. So when they were in a situation of conflict, she could see what was going on, and so she always took the other person's part. And sometimes she might just have wanted to shout back.
Yes.
And so basically we went through some chat with that, and sometimes I said, sometimes we do lose it. And that's what I'd say to parents too. And sometimes it's okay to do that.
Yeah, that's quite natural.
As long as people see that the other side of that is love and reconciliation. And in fact, I was listening to Trauma Informed again, where a guy who'd been, I can't remember his name, he was a fascinating guy, writes poetry, and Michael something, and he was saying about how he never, because going in care homes and foster care, he was always moved on after an argument, so he was taken out and moved on. So it's always like you can't it's not safe.
Yeah.
Not safe to have an argument. So he thinks it's great to be able to have an argument, get over it. Obviously not too many and not too loud and intense, but sometimes that's what happens. That's life. And as long as children can see that the other side of that is love and compassion and apologies, then if necessary, not always, but again, I'm not into making children apologise if they're not sorry, because it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, because you don't mean it.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And what's the point? Because quite often I see children come in and they hit another child and they'll go, oh, sorry, and I'll go, well, hang on a minute, what was happening before you hit, and how are you really feeling now? And let's talk about this.
And that's more important really
Far
than
more
actually
important.
saying sorry, let's finish it.
Yeah.
But we don't know why this child did that in the first place. And that all requires time and that education and that being around the child and giving them the opportunity to speak in a safe environment where they won't be judged.
Exactly. And quite often that's the thing we think about as well, is we try and get children to resolve conflicts themselves with our help and our support. And very often they'll end up, they'll say, they'll go off friends usually. But what we always say is, because they always say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And we say, you don't have to say sorry if you don't want to, it's fine. If you don't want to actually play with that child anymore, that's also fine. You can play somewhere differently. So what do you want to do? And 9 times out of 10 they'll say, no, we want to play with each other. And particularly the older children will end up shaking hands or whatever, or doing something. And even if they don't, give it 10 minutes or so and you'll find that they're back in some area playing with the pool table and playing a game of pool, or down in the messy play having a good old play with the sand. So I think it's very much about, we try and resolve children's conflicts for them very often. And also I think both as parents and professionals, if someone's crying, we nearly always think that it's the person that's crying who we need to comfort and direct our anger at the other person. But actually you need to find out what's been going on before the crying and before the child
What was the reason behind it?
And it may end up saying, well, he took my my truck without asking me, and I've been playing a game over here, he came and pulled it all away. And so he lost it and he hit. So again, that's not acceptable, but it's about saying we make mistakes and we have big strong emotions, and what could you do to manage that emotion next time?
So what would you say if a child has been brought up very much on sticker behaviour, and also if you do that you will get this, and now they negotiate themselves and say, if I get really good marks, would I get £50 in this, or and they've literally been brought up and they say this straight away. What would you say? How would you?
I'd again say, well, what do you think? Do you think is that what you want? And is there anything else that you'd like apart from reward? And what else can you feel about getting this right, or doing this, working hard? What do you think the benefit to you would be, apart from the money that you want?
So it's about having those conversations.
Yeah, and it's again, how would you feel? So they might say the benefit is I could get a good job, or I could go to university, or whatever it is, and you say, how would you feel about that? And they might say, well, I don't really want to go to university. So okay, fine. So you don't need my 50 quid because you're not going anyway. So
And what would you say if you get your teacher's child emails you and says your son is so amazing in Spanish, he's done such a good job, I'm so impressed. You see this email as a parent, you're like delighted obviously, and when they come back home you recognise it. How would you, you might use, oh my God, that's so amazing what you did,
I wouldn't say that.
No, you wouldn't say that. What's the alternative for
Well,
that?
I'd just say, oh, we had a letter today saying that you're doing really well in Spanish. It sounds like something you really enjoy. Yeah, tell me more about that and how do you feel about it? And then get a conversation going on about Spanish, and then you might go to, well, is that something you'd like to do going forward? Would you like to know more in Spanish? And how does it make you feel? And that kind of thing.
Oh my God, this is so much deeper, isn't it? When you just say that, it makes me. And this example I use of my own son. So last week I got this particular email, and his dad got one as well. And like you do as a parent, you're really proud. I didn't expect anything from them, and they don't normally send these things out, or not that I know. So you look at it and you think, oh, this is such a lovely child, But I'm thinking, if I didn't get this, it's still a lovely child.
It's still a lovely child, exactly.
It doesn't matter if I got it, It's very much. I was like, yeah, that's really good. And I said, well, wasn't for working hard in this. I talk about working hard rather than being clever. I don't use those words. However, what you've just taken it to another level, and I think that is so important for people listening.
It's about the feeling.
It's about
how did they feel about it? How did you feel about it?
But you also found out, if you were talking to my son now, you also found out, oh, is this something you want to do? Or where would that take you? So now we've got a deeper conversation. I get to know my son a bit more versus just literally leveling it out on that great. So we got stuck on that.
Great, you did well, good boy.
Yeah, and this is it. But we haven't asked, why do you like Spanish actually? Why am I getting an email about Spanish but I haven't got about any matters?
So what is it about Spanish?
Because we have a house in Spain and we do go there twice a year. So I know that he knows a little bit more about it. But I don't know any more than that. I just
maybe you'd like to do some work experience out there at some point,
this
or stay out there longer, or maybe go to school out there, or I've got a friend who sent her child to school to do her A-levels in Spain because she enjoys Spanish so much, and now she's got an amazing job.
And what would you say when you ask your child, how was school today? And the answer normally is,
I wouldn't say how was school today, because
and
I
there's a
don't
shrug
care
of the
how
shoulder.
school was doing. I'd say, how was your day? And if they do just say, shrug, I'd say, and actually I wouldn't even say that, I'd say, how are you feeling today? And see, yeah. And also you can judge by the way someone comes in.
Yeah.
So you might say, oh, you look a bit, are you feeling a bit down today? Have you had a bad day? What's been happening? Or what's been going on in your day?
Yeah.
So it's really difficult not to put our own stuff on other children.
Because the minute you see them having a bad day, you feel like, oh gosh, what happened? You know.
But also they might not have had a bad day.
No,
they might have just been feeling a bit tired.
Yeah.
So again, it's about assuming stuff and just asking.
Assuming less and asking more questions.
How they're doing. I mean, you know,
opening up a dialogue.
My son yesterday was, you know, I can't remember what it was. It's like it works for everybody. This, so he was cross with his dad, and he said, "Oh, I don't know what's wrong with Dad. He's really got a hump today." And I went, "Oh, okay." So I was taking my husband to pick up his van, and I said, "Oh, you know, how was your evening? What's been going on?" And then he explained to me that he'd actually been trying to pick up my son, and he'd been going from one place to the other place because he hadn't had the right direction. So he'd become really frustrated and also quite anxious because he thought he wasn't going to be there in time. And so that made him feel a little bit snappy and emotionally flooded. You know, one of the things that I say, which is a very simple thing, way of putting it, and neuroscience people will be going, oh my gosh, what's she on about? But basically, if you imagine a state, a kind of balanced state, as a circle, and half of that circle is your thinking bit, and the top half is your thinking bit, and the bottom part is your feeling bit, and if there's a line, a horizontal line across. Well, when our emotions start flooding, that kind of line, that water line, if you goes up the circle, and there's only a tiny bit left to think with. So we have to wait until that line goes down before we can be rational.
I love that analogy. That is so brilliant. Do it one more time. Just say it one more time.
Okay, so there's a circle, right? And you've got a straight line cutting the circle in half. So that's your water line, if you like. And if you imagine the emotions as water, and the water's rising and rising and rising and flooding your head, your circle head. So there's only a tiny little bit left that you can think with. So we need to wait until that water level has gone down so we can think before we can talk rationally to someone.
Wow.
So when someone's
That's
emotionally flooded, you can't talk to them. You just have to wait.
And that waiting is going to give you, the water line will come down and you can then speak rationally, because when you sometimes speak in anger, you often look back and think, I didn't actually mean that.
Exactly.
I didn't want to say that. I wish I didn't say that. And now I can't say sorry because I don't want to go up to them. And there's so much to come into it now. Where if you gave yourself, and that comes from that mindfulness, isn't it?
Yes.
It's about finding that space. So when my kids are shouting upstairs to each other, they're playing, but to me it looks like they're killing each other.
Yeah.
They literally feel like one's stabbing the other, but they're not doing it. Because I've been there, and I can see that they're laughing. But I stayed downstairs now, and I literally count to 10, and I'm bringing my water, which is my water levels gone past the,
yes, exactly.
gone out the circle and out, and it's
flooding out your head and your ears and your eyes.
It's spilling everywhere.
Coming down
so
your nose.
I actually go downstairs in the downstairs toilet, which is always warm and it always smells nice, or mostly, if no one's been in there. So I stand there and I count to 10. I literally have done this practice so many times.
Try breathing instead of counting.
Yeah, breathing. I do breathing,
stomach,
and I just bring myself down because I've got my physical, my heartbeat's going. I'm thinking, oh my god, one's really getting hurt, and then play fighting. It doesn't happen often, but say once a month, and then I approach. I go upstairs to the third floor, and then I look and I see what's going on before I actually speak. Before, same person. So my water is right to the top, and I've gone straight in there and shouted at them.
Come up at this level, and their level goes up, and their level goes up.
3 of us now are in a state, and I'm like, you get in your room, your Xbox is finished, you lost, I'm taking your phone. I literally got to unplug their things physically, really disrespectful. Now looking back, because they are in the middle of the game, and they're like, especially my older son, like, how could you
and
do
all the
this
data that they might have lost.
and I'm taking the things and I gather up all of that. Now I'm showing power in a wrong way, control, exactly.
But you know,
and I'm down there and I'm like, I feel better now, but I don't. I feel absolutely, I'm in a state. And it takes me a while to get. And then I go back in the evening and I realise what I've done. I sometimes apologise. This is before, but I've worked on that a lot because I needed to understand why I was doing this, because it can't be the same. I teach this myself, so I've really grounded myself with these.
Did you have siblings?
I grew up very much on my own. So where you were talking about the contact, I don't have any of that.
Right.
So at age 2, I was with my aunts and uncles and caregivers rather than parents. So I have a very much of a disassociation with my parents. And I when you're talking about those things, it's amazing. Yeah, the attachment. I did that to my kids actually.
Right.
I was very contrary to what people told me.
Good for you. That's
down.
right. You make them off your own back.
Why? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I did what felt right.
Exactly.
Because I had real severe postnatal depression, and whatever felt right to me, I would take that.
That's
whether
brilliant.
people agreed or not.
Good
And
for
that
you.
really helped me.
And that takes some strength. It's so hard to do that when other people are saying no.
And there's a lot of people telling me things when you have baby, don't they? Because they know more.
Aren't there? I know. It's so hard that I think it's really hard for young mothers.
Yes, definitely. Are you, so what you've just said today, obviously people listening with younger kids can take some of this and, use it within their households. I know we talked about this before. Are you planning to do any kind of workshop? There's a big gap in the market that I see. So you have a baby, you have these classes and teenager classes.
Yes.
Okay? You're told how the baby, the nappy, the practical things, which is great because you literally don't know what the meconium means. The first move. What happens after that is nothing.
No.
There's healthcare staff who does her tick box exercises. You're okay, mum's okay, baby's okay, the weight's okay, right? Let's get out and sign them off. But no one teaches you how to parent because apparently you should learn it from your own parent. But what happens when your own parents, you don't agree with that, which is where you come into it. I didn't agree with the way my parenting was done. There is nowhere to go.
There are places. I mean, as I said, back when I first had my child, there was an organisation called Parent Network, which is then turned into something else, which I can't remember, and then is now called Family Lives. So I know it's something. It wasn't Childline, but it was after Parent Network. It became something else, and even now it's called Family Lives, and they do run courses for parents. And there are actually a lot of. I don't know, but I bet you there are parenting courses online that you can go to. But I'm going to run one because I've started one which is more about this positive phrasing and non-labelling. Because although not praising children is, as you say, a much bigger concept, and I'm passionate about it, I find that working with early years professionals and teachers and things, they just need to know how. They need actual strategies to how to do it. Exactly. So basically helping them to think about reframing their language and talking positively and about getting rid of all those labels and throwing them out the window. So they're giving very clear instruction. That's kind of the first step. So my course, which is a day's course, teaches the power of positive phrasing, the beauty of not using no, don't and labels, and also, it talks about feelings and understanding our own feelings and where we feel them in the body so that we can recognise the signs and symptoms of anxiety quickly.
In ourselves and our children.
And ourselves and our children. And also teaching a little bit about self-reflection so that we know what our triggers are, and if we've reacted in a way that we look back and we think, oh, I wish I hadn't done that, I really didn't handle that well. I can go up to someone and say, do you know what, I'm feeling really bad about this, and I realise I shouldn't have handled it like that. And 9 times out of 10, they'll go, oh, that's fine. So I'll think, oh my gosh, I really did that badly, and they will say, no, actually, what I got from that was something really quite positive. Sometimes they won't, and they'll be pleased that I've said that I'm sorry. And that's the most important thing, is being able to own when we make mistakes, because we all make mistakes all the time. I'm constantly.
And it's okay.
And that's
it doesn't define us.
Exactly. And I think what's one of the biggest things, that one thing I always thought my mum, because I was a single parent, was, almost like God, she never did anything wrong. And I can remember when she told a lie for the first time, and we were at a dry cleaners, and
you were horrified.
I was horrified. She said, I can't remember what it was, but she was trying to get the dry cleaners to clean it. So she made something up about how she was going to have a party and she needed it cleaned in a hurry. And I was saying, what party? We're not having a party, who's coming? And I didn't know about this party, and she was sort of going, shh. And then afterwards she really told me off. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, my mum told a lie, and then I got told off for questioning it. So, and she said, well, don't you ever talk to me like that, or contradict me in front of people again, and she did the best that she knew how. But from a child's perspective, that stayed with me all the time. And I think it's really important for early years professionals and teachers to understand the impact that the things that they do and say are, well, the things that they do are far more impactful than, the way they're role modelling than actually what they're teaching.
Yes.
They may never remember the maths, but they will remember that you told them off for something that they didn't do.
Yeah.
Always.
Yes.
No.
It's emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
It's something that's not taught really. It's all about the IQ and the EQ, and,
Absolutely.
And why? Because these are the things that you need when you're in your adulthood, really. How do you develop relationships? How do you communicate with people? How do you conduct yourself? Those are the things you need.
Exactly.
And if you are feeling a bit down, how do you bring yourself out? If you've never been taught, you're then heading towards anxiety, depression, chronic anxiety.
Exactly.
And then staying in there because you don't know how to come out of it.
Exactly.
Then you go to get tablets. Then you stay on there until you really understand something like this.
And it's even bigger than that, because if you think about it from self-regulation, if you look back at Brexit and back to that horrendous scenes that we saw in Parliament, maybe we'd have got a lot more negotiation done if people could self-regulate. If people had been able to control that enormous emotion and be able to think about what other people were saying without getting so angry and cross about it.
Versus making their votes according to their water level, which was right up there,
exactly.
didn't they?
Exactly
They
that.
didn't
I
wait.
mean, it was coming out their ears and
They're literally
noses. Yeah,
exactly.
they were
Immersed in their water.
hugely flooded.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love that analogy. It's amazing. So this course that you're talking about, how do people get access to that? Is that only for professional people in childcare, or is it for anyone to attend?
At the moment, it's only for professional people in childcare, but that's not to say we wouldn't run it for parents as well.
Okay.
But if they are looking for parenting courses, as I said, Family Lives are great. There's a lot of people. This Jane Evans lady runs workshops. I'm not sure if she does. Well, she does work with individual parents as well. But again, a lot of people are out there working with children with severe emotional disorders or anxiety disorders. There aren't many people working out there just for parents who've got children that
I know you don't want to quite use the word
exactly.
normal, but
It's not because none of us are normal.
Exactly.
But exactly, we're day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
And I think
And also
it's
learning before kind of learning in early childhood.
Yes, exactly.
Like when you've got a 2-year-old and you started to tell them off now, and you don't do this, or you're going to get this for this, but it doesn't quite work. So you want to be able to. People that have heard that are going to be listening to this podcast will want to know more, I believe, because I think for me it's definitely with my 2 kids. I wish I met you a few years back,
I know,
but I always believe it's never too late.
It's never too late.
You can always, whatever stage you're at, you can always start to
Change.
look at how your words are coming across, and is the need yours? What I'm taking from here is it my need that I'm implementing or pushing on my child, or is it actually, am I really genuinely interested in what's going on with that child?
Yes, and I think
That's a very important.
It's hugely important, and I think for primary school teachers, one of the reasons they get so emotionally flooded about stuff is they're under huge pressure to get their figures up for their school, to make their school look better.
Yeah.
So all this constant testing of children is, I think, wrong.
Unbelievable.
It's so wrong.
What's with you and stats?
I just think it's rubbish. All of these things shouldn't be done, because it's about, I just think school itself is antiquated, really. It comes from the Victorian age, where everything was factory. So you go in by date of manufacturer and out by date of manufacturer. And that's how schools are. And you all sit at a desk and you learn by rote. I think if you look at Google and all the people that are, running big companies, people come in when they want to, they do their work when they want to, they have these rooms that they can go to chill out, and yeah, I'm saying school should be like that.
Yeah.
And for teenagers particularly, school shouldn't even start until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, because teenagers need to sleep, and that's just a fact.
Yeah.
So why would you drag a teenager who's probably been up half the night out of bed and make them go to school? It's bonkers. It's bonkers.
We're going against the natural way that we are.
Exactly.
Everything is the same for everyone, whatever age you are, but it's not right, is it?
It's
If a
not
teenager
right.
needs more sleep, let them come in later.
Exactly.
How amazing would that be? If we could just start.
There is a school. There's a school.
Ooh.
I think there's a school here in the UK. Might be Scotland. Scotland's amazing. All the things that people do in schools in Scotland is fantastic. One of the things is there used to be a school that had loads and loads of exclusions, and I don't know if you've heard of these isolation pods, which are like little prison cells that they put children in, which is like saying, a child that's already feeling anxious and upset is being told they're a no good person and they're not to be part of society, when what Sapiens and everything else is saying is that we need to be part of society to feel we're contributing, you put them on their own in a pod and expect that somehow that's going to make them do better. Well, this school in Scotland has banned all exclusions, and they have nurture pods. So when you're sent to the nurture pod, you go and you learn cookery and you do stuff and you contribute and you're acknowledged and your feelings are acknowledged. And,
That's amazing.
and now their whole SATs and all that sort of stuff has gone up, and their exam marks have gone up. And it should be about what's right for the child, not what's right for the government and what's
Or
right
the
for...
Ofsted report.
No,
Who cares?
No, exactly. I mean, it's like being school ready, that annoys me. Yes, I was sent this pack from, I won't say which council, but about being school ready. Well, to me, the schools should be child ready.
Yeah.
You know, it's ridiculous. So they were saying, this is a pamphlet to give to your parents to show them how to get rid of the dummy before the child comes to school, because they're upset. For some reason, it's a problem that some 3-4-year-olds come to school with a dummy.
So there's a leaflet in this pack.
There's a leaflet in the
how
pack,
to get ready.
yeah, and how to toilet train and all this. And again, it's all about rewards and star charts. So, you know, clearly that's buying into the control thing of, you know, but it's about a fundamental part, you know, function of the human being. And evolution we wouldn't have evolved if we didn't at some point stop wetting ourselves, and your body would do that when it's ready. And if you're fit, of course, sometimes there might be a medical reason why not, but then you take them to the doctor and find out. But this thing about the dummy, if a child needs a dummy, I'm not saying they're the best things in the world for teeth and all of that, or speech development, but if they need it and it's something that helps them to calm down, why would you take that away on the time that you're taking the child to leave them with strangers when they've never been left before and expect them to be able to conform and join in? It's ridiculous.
Or because someone's told you that at age 4 or age 3 you shouldn't have it. That word should. It should not be in that dictionary.
It is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And then it's even advocating taking it away and hiding it from the child, and you have to be, I mean, all kinds of things.
Or putting bad things on it. So I mean, it's unbelievable.
It is.
I remember my brother used to suck his thumb, and my parents were so embarrassed taking him anywhere. I think he was only about 7, 8. I think he took it up to 11 maybe. But they put like chilies on his thumb so that he doesn't do it again, and you know, and all because that's how he's self-regulated. Now now we look back and you're like, oh, you poor thing.
And it's back to what we were talking about before, is that as a parent we feel embarrassed by what other people will think about us when these other people are people that we don't really care about, we might never see again, and yet the person that we love the most, who we really care about, and I don't doubt your parents hugely care about their son. We kind of feel that this person that we love is not as important as all these 100 other people that are in this cafe or might see my son.
Why do parents get so worried and hung up about status as a good parenting? Where's that come from?
It's come from labelling, because when we were children, we were told if you do this, you're good and you have my approval, and if you do that, you're bad and I will take my approval away. So we're all so conditioned by that, and maybe I own this, because as I told you, good is my label that I really hate and I really rebelled against it. So it's like, if I haven't got your approval, somehow I'm just not worthy. And what's important, what I want for my children and for all the children that come into my setting, is to approve of themselves. So they go away approving of themselves. And a lot of people think that confidence and self-esteem is the same thing, and it's not. Self-esteem, you can have very confident people with very low self-esteem. And one of the ways that you lower self-esteem is by praising, by constantly saying, you know, you are only good enough if I tell you you are good enough. And who am I to tell anybody else, whatever age they are, whether they're good enough? And with babies, quite often people say, oh, you're good, you're such a good baby.
Slept all night.
You slept all night. I mean, babies are not designed to sleep all night, folks. Let me tell you that now. It's not possible, and they shouldn't be sleeping all night. And if they are, that's a bit of a worry, particularly when they're very, very young. But the whole point about taking away this reliance on praise is about engendering self-esteem and about the person being able to believe in themselves. And you only do that if you talk about how they're feeling instead of how I'm feeling.
This conversation has totally blown me away. It's so refreshing, and I really hope it helps so many people. What's your view on affirmations? There's this whole thing about adults. We're talking about adults now here.
Yeah.
Adult affirmations, telling yourself every day you know how good you are. What's your view on that? Or have you heard of that book called Love Language, the 5 love languages?
I haven't.
You haven't. This book, it's American author. He talks about people feel significant in 5 different ways. So either you give them affirmations, so you continue to praise them.
I know don't like that.
Even if it doesn't come naturally to you.
And it's only because we're brought into that. It's because as
Yeah.
a child we've been told and conditioned to believe that we need affirmation from everybody. We don't. We need affirmation from ourselves, and we need to belong. We need to be part of community and helping.
Is that different between men and women in that way that you've seen?
I don't think so. No, I think it's the same for all. It's not a gender thing at all. The need to be part of a community is not gender. I remember when I was 23, this is one very positive thing that my mother did for me, and she did lots of positive things for me, but when I, as a young actress of 21, I suddenly thought, oh my gosh, I'm wasting my life on the stage doing this when there are people dying and there's wars going on, and I should be out there doing something, and I became really kind of anxious about the fact that I wasn't contributing.
Yeah.
And my mum introduced me to an organisation, I can't remember what it was, but it was about being able to pay some money, so charity, but you were able to actually write to a child. So I was supporting a child in an orphanage, and we swapped letters all the time. And do you know that? That helped me so much. And even now, if I'm feeling down or depressed, there's lots of different things that I do. If I go out and I do something for someone else, or I work, I suddenly think, do you know what? I'm so lucky. I am so lucky. Which is why for me, all these affirmations and things are great, but it's about gratitude is the best thing. It's about feeling grateful for what we've got, and just
putting yourself in that environment as well sometimes, and or creating those opportunities.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to get stuck into. Some people are like living for this particular day that's going to come in, and then they're going to start doing everything. Then they're going to start looking after themselves, start gratitude, start journaling. But actually, we need it now. These are the tools, you need them now.
It's like business, isn't it? It's baby steps.
Yeah.
So you can say you're going to do something, just start now. And it's again with this whole parenting and how we talk to children. Just start now. Start thinking, what do I want my child to be doing rather than what I don't want my child to be doing. Then the biggest step of that is, why do I want my child to be doing that anyway? But that's the next step. But the first step is just say what I do want instead of what I don't. That just decreases the anxiety levels, and try and avoid all these constant labels and think about what I mean when I say, oh, you're a good boy or girl. Sometimes parents just mean I love you. When they say, oh, you're such a good boy, so just say I love you. That's all you need to say without anything else, or you're great. For no reason, no condition on it, just I love you, I think you're great. End of.
This, so sorry, just bringing back to the affirmations in adults, is that because as a child, so my partner read this book, I read this book, and we had to find what our love language is. So mine is time. If I have time with people, I feel loved. This is mine. I don't know what that comes from, whether I was left as a child, whatever. But my partner's was to be given affirmations. So after reading this book, we both decided this is what we want. I really struggle with that. And I said, and he knows this, and I'm bringing this point specifically to the subject because I know there's other people that feel like this. He said for him to feel loved, it needs to come
constantly told. So
and I said, but it's not coming naturally. So when I'm going fake, I felt like I was doing, oh, you're so great at this, that's so good, well done you, you've done that. I felt this is not coming from here. I'm only saying it because that's your love language, but I don't know how to show you your love language.
But also, if you peel the onions back from that, it's like, it's got to come from the centre, from him. So
he's got to love himself, isn't it, really? Because I can't make him, this is it.
Absolutely.
So this book actually tells you about how you need to understand your child's love language and your partner's love language or your parents' love language, and maybe do that because sometimes they want to spend time with you and that's how they appreciate.
In a way, that's just like saying, find out what the issue is for your children. It's what's the issue, the need behind behaviour. But I guess that's a quick fix, but that's not necessarily getting to the root of the problem, is it? And turning that around. But I do think that the key thing is feelings for all of us, because a lot of men aren't very, it doesn't come naturally to them because in particularly older men, but we were all told big boys don't cry and boys need to hold their emotions really, and that's
horse thing.
exactly. So I think
Brene Brown, have you heard of her?
Yes,
Yeah,
oh yes,
yeah.
and some things about her that I'm not too sure. Again, because she was talking about how she dealt with her 2-year-old, with I can't remember what it was on, but she was talking about telling the 2-year-old off and punishing them for not doing what she wanted. But I don't think that's the right way, because you can't do that with a 2-year-old because they'll get it. I personally, I don't think anybody should be punished
For anything.
for anything,
What do you
really.
think about boundaries? How do you set boundaries? Do you set boundaries? What's your view on that?
Well, we always used to sit down and have a meeting about it. So
Okay.
as soon as the children were old enough, we'd sit down and say, okay, this is not working because when we leave in the mornings, we're always leaving late.
Yeah.
What is it that you need? What is it that you need? What is it that you need? Or
Right.
what's going on for you?
Right.
And what you've and the first thing is, how do you feel about the mornings?
Yeah.
Oh, we all feel so stressed, and it's real. Okay, so we're all feeling the same. We're all on the same page. What can we all do to make this better? And I used to actually have a minute, so my daughter used to be the minute taker. She used to write it down, and we'd all say we'd agreed to do this. We wouldn't always stick to it, but we'd look back on it, so we'd stick it up and say, actually, do you remember we said we'd do that? Yeah, but this happened and that happened. Okay, fine. So this happened this time, but we all know that that's what we're trying to aim at, and things do suddenly get better. It's back to Sapiens, that book. It's about community, about everybody putting in. This is a problem that this little small community has. I don't like getting stressed with you in the mornings, and we're always late, and then I can't find somewhere to park, and then we have to run the last mile. What can we do to make that easier? Who's got some ideas? And 2 and 3-year-olds can come up with ideas.
They do. But if you are cultivating that culture just to begin with in your household, imagine how their adulthood is going to be.
They're great negotiators.
Yes.
They're really great negotiators. They're great at listening to other people and
You're developing your listening skill, you're developing, you're giving your point of view, you're developing your confidence. Because it doesn't matter what the issue is, does it? Whether you're at work or whether you're at home.
Exactly.
An issue, a problem, or something that's making everybody's life difficult is something to be resolved.
I mean, what's really interesting is I actually sometimes, because I've been running my business now for many years, and it's really nice, just recently, in the last kind of year or two, I've been contacted by children that used to be in the creche saying to me, oh, I use the stuff you taught us in my management meetings, and it's really great.
Amazing.
Thanks so much. And I'm like, oh, and I was sitting in a restaurant, and this child came up and said, oh, you Mr. and Mrs. Nipperbout? We were like, whoa, yeah, we are.
Like a celebrity.
And she said, oh, I used to come to your creche, I'm this age, and and she said, oh, the things that you taught me was so great, I had such a great time. And that just makes it all worthwhile. And there's a little boy who's been coming to us for quite a long time, who's just gone into senior school, and he came back, and my manager said to me, oh, it's so funny, he came to us and he said, oh, it's not like Nipperbout, it's everything's don't do this and don't do that, and I think you should go and give them some training.
Definitely.
And I thought, I'm going to put that in my marketing material. Charlie says.
Yeah, put it in like a bubble speech,
Yes.
why not? Absolutely. So tell us, where can people find you? Where can we find you?
Nipperbout.com.
And what other social media handles are you on?
Yes, it's all Nipperbout, at Nipperbout Limited is our Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn as Janthea Brigden, but also as Nipperbout, and we've got a Facebook page which is Nipperbout, and I write a blog which is about parenting.
Oh, fantastic. Where's that blog?
Yeah, that's on my website. So there's quite a lot of stuff about children and being
And
good
that's all
enough
under
and all of that.
Nipperbout.
It's
so
all
you
under
can find more
Nipperbout.
information. Fantastic.
Yeah, if you just go on the page, you can see the blog, touch it. One thing that I do want to talk about is I have made some, I think I told you, talk about affirmation cards for children, and those have all got positive messages on, and all the animals on them are, and you're going to be able to buy these on Amazon, because we're about to put them on Amazon. They're called Nipper cards.
Nipper cards.
And you can use them because they're like a pack of cards, so you can use them to play games with.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that they have Native American Indian animals on them, and each of those animals has, Native American Indians believe, has a power or quality. So, a horse is about teaching, and so each of the affirmations talks about something that goes with that power. So there's a little hedgehog, and this hedgehog's very prickly, and it says, inside every grown-up is a little child, and inside every child is a wise grown-up. So there are things like that, and the dark is my friend for rabbits, because rabbits are about fear. And the thing about them is you can use them to talk about emotions. So you might just be playing a game, cards, and they might get a card and then you might find that they're looking at it. So then again, you say, what do you think about the card? What do you think that message is telling you? What do you think it means? And how do you feel about that? And does that relate to you at all? And why did you pick that card? What do I feel holding that card? So it opens up a whole conversation.
And who is this aimed at what age?
Right from little ones to teenagers.
Okay.
So, for example, we had a big conversation. One of them is a spider, and spiders are great networkers, are great planners and builders. However, and the card says, I weave my traps, I can escape. And what that means, and again it's about bringing up conversation, is that when we're building things and we're networking, sometimes we can get stuck.
Yeah. And you made these cards, your set, as in they're your words. And
Yes.
fantastic.
I did them for my own children.
Okay.
And what was magical is
Wow.
that, what was it, my daughter's card was always, when I'm cross, I may need hugs. Or when I'm prickly, I may need hugs. And when I opened the first pack of cards and I, put them out for her to pick one, she picked that card.
Oh my god!
I know, and that was her card when she was 7.
Oh, the hairs on the back of my neck here.
Yeah. Very
Amazing.
interesting.
Amazing. So this product is coming out. What's this product called? So if you were to Google this or Amazon,
Nipper cards.
Nipper cards.
Yeah, and they're not on there yet, but they'll be on there in the next week.
Fantastic. Amazing. Thank you so
No,
much.
thank
Thank
you.
you so much. I'm literally blown away. I forgot where I was sitting. I'm so involved in it, and I just wished I'd met you years ago. But like I said, it's never too late. But I really relate to what you're saying. It really makes sense. It almost feels like my shoulders feel like lighter. I feel like my kids, after I've had this conversation, which I will be, they will feel light and airy, and we can kind of build a communication that is softer and more child friendly than boundaries and taking things away and stressing me out, stressing them out, because that's why I think I'm trying to take control when actually I need to talk.
Yeah.
Less control, more communication.
And sometimes we get it wrong, and that's okay.
Yeah, and that's okay to make mistakes, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been absolutely wonderful. This podcast, guys, is going to be out on this Sunday, so can't wait to hear it. We're going to let you know when it's out as well, so you can share it on your network, and hopefully have you back again.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Janthea.